Hello, welcome to the County Caledonia of America's Ministry of Minstrels presentation of St. Patrick's Day Festival of Folk. Keeping it local as folk as possible. And tonight we're reading from our favourite new anthology of folk tales from around the world, published in 1928. You certainly don't hear the kind of folk tales and fairy tales of old in my generation. So anywho, we're reading today The Red-Headed Princess, the Little Red-Headed Princess. It's Levon's favourite.
My actual favourite is the ice cream story.
Oh, you love the ice cream one? We'll read that tomorrow, okay? Whoever heard tell of a red-headed princess? Of course you never did. You never search your fairy books through and through, and never once will you find tell of a red-headed princess. For there never was one in song or story till once upon a time. And that's where our story begins. Once upon a time, there was a red-headed princess. A little princess whose hair was as red as fire or carrots or, well, any of the things we could think of when we see a redhead. Oh, there couldn't be any mistake about its redness. Now, I've said already, such a thing had never been heard tell of before. In all the kingdom, there had never been a red-headed princess. As far back as the very oldest folk could remember, there had never been a red-headed princess until, of course, once upon a time. How very nice, laughed the Lady Queen, stroking the baby head that was already crowned with soft, very red down. How extraordinary, quoth the Daddy King, tilting his crown at a puzzled angle. The court sages put their wise old heads together and rubbed their chins. Her Royal Highness would outgrow it, they said. They meant, of course, the red hair. There never was, and there never could be a red-headed princess that might grow up to be a red-headed queen. It wasn't to be thought of. Oh, most certainly Her Royal Highness would outgrow it. The court sages put their solemn heads close together and rubbed their chins harder and croaked, Indubitably, indubitably. The ladies in waiting held their sides, and with laughing and cunning little redhead, they tittered, peeping into the royal cradle. Far and wide, near and far, all of the kingdom went to the court criers, crying loudly, shouting gaily, May the Almighty Father bless you. Born today, 1st of May, a princess fair who has red hair. A princess with red hair. In spite of the wonder of it, it tickled the fancies of the good folk. Just fancy, they mused before the fires in the chilly evenings. Many a good wife scurried home to sew white ribbons in place of the pink or blue on the gifts for the tiny new princess, for even a red-headed princess cannot wear pink or blue. In the meantime, the little princess lay in the royal cradle and played with her royal toes. She delighted in pulling her old nurse's nose, and all the time she was red-headed. She wasn't outgrowing it, and she didn't mind. The very red down in due time grew into very red ringlets, still very red. And later on there were 2 bobbin pigtails, and later on the pigtails were 2 braids that hung over her shoulders, long and shining and red. The little princess's eyes were like pansies, the brown kind, and her voice made you think of the little brooks lipping through the ferny places. And everybody loved her. So what difference did it make whether her hair was black or brown or flaxen or red? In fact, everybody was beginning to forget that our little red-headed princess was a curious thing. That is, everybody but the court sages. They still believed she'd outgrow it. But as far as the little princess herself, she'd never minded anyway. Now, at the christening, there was given a wondrously beautiful name to the princess. They thought it would make up for the red hair, I suppose. They gave her a name that sounded like all the music of the world singing together. Harps and winds and treetops and seashells. And her name was Charmaine. Such a name would have made any little girl happy. Just any ordinary, everyday little girl. To say nothing of a princess, for remember that Charmaine had the fun of being a princess. Time went along as time does, and everything in the kingdom was as fit as a fiddle. And then something happened. Oh, quite suddenly. Little princess began minding. That is about being redheaded. And this is how it happened. In the garden one morning, Charmaine was tossing her golden ball. Suddenly, a voice called, "Redhead! Redhead! Hey, redhead!" Little princess caught to one ear. A queer, piping voice it was. It seemed to come from just no place at all. A moment then it came again. "Redhead! Hey, redhead! Redhead!" Little princess cocked 2 ears. Such a queer little voice. It sounded like nothing as much as the creaking of a rusty hinge. And such a queer thing for the voice to be calling. For you understand, as far as Charmaine knew, red hair was quite the proper colour for the head of the little princess to be. She only wondered a little as she hunted about the garden. High and low, here and there she hunted, but neither sight did she see nor sound did she hear. So up went the golden ball once more, up and down, up and down, up and down. Like sunshine, flickering again and again went the golden ball. All at once it started again, only this time it went, "Redhead, redhead, hee hee hee, redhead, redhead, red as can be." And there on the wall, as plain as day, sat a dwarf. He was rocking himself to and fro, his arms twisted 3 times around his hunched knees. So little and brown and wizened was he might have been a leaf. And there he sat, rocking and screwing his face into knotty knots. But worst of all was the squeaking for all the world like a rusty hinge. "Redhead, redhead, red as can be, redhead, redhead, hee hee hee." Right then the little princess began minding hard that her sobs filled the palace garden and brought her old nurse running. They brought the daddy